the speed of the neutrons by collision. That is, moderator, when it comes in between the path of the neutron, the moderator is hit with the neutron, thereby the speed possessed by the neutron, it is getting reduced. In this process, the moderator gets heated. Okay. Now, let us see a slide. This is the neutron. When it hits the moderator, it slows down. In this process, the moderator, it gets heated. The moderator that are used are generally heavy water, which is just like a water which has deuterium oxide and is used and is produced in a plant. The production process is very complicated. So, the cost of the heavy water is very much high and is mostly used in nuclear power plants. Now, let us talk about the various types of moderators that we have. The moderator we have are graphite, heavy water and beryllium. Graphite, heavy water, beryllium are used as moderator when the fuel used is natural uranium, and water is used with the fuel when the fuel used is an enriched uranium, right. So, this is about the moderator that we have talked about. Now, let us talk about the next, that is the reflector. What do you mean by the word reflector? Reflector means one which reflects. What does it reflect? It reflects the neutrons that are trying to escape or come out from the reactor core. These neutrons which come out of the reactor core are sent into the reactor core for fission occurrence. Okay. In this way, we can see that the chain reactions are continued. The main function of the reactor is to reflect back the neutrons. The one more property that a reflector should possess is it should not absorb the neutrons, isn't it? It has to reflect the neutrons back into the core, not to absorb the neutrons. The same property is required by the moderator as well. Moderator should stop the neutrons and make it slow down, isn't it? Whereas, it should also not absorb the neutrons. If you take the case of the control rods, it should absorb the neutrons, isn't it? Now, let us see the reflector part. So, this is the reflector. The reflector, as we have said, it bounces back the escaping neutrons back into the core for fission occurrence. If you observe, the neutrons are sent back into the core for fission occurrence. So, the reflector's main property is it should reflect back and it should not absorb the neutrons. So, the materials that are used as moderators, this can as well be used for reflectors. Now, the materials that are used are graphite, beryllium. Okay. These are the two materials that are used as a reflector. Now, let us talk about the next important component in a nuclear reactor. They are, that is, we talk about the pressure vessel. A pressure vessel, it is a thermal lining which surrounds the reactor core. The pressure vessel is made up of 50 to 60 centimeters or thickness of steel. This provides a thermal insulation between the reactor core as well as the shield. It protects the shield from not getting heated by the heat that is generated in the reactor core, isn't it? The reactor core. So, in the process what happens, the pressure vessel it gets heated, that is see. So, by absorbing the heat, the pressure vessel is getting heated and water is circulated through the pressure vessel, so as to make the pressure vessel cool, right. So, the pressure vessel it provides us with the thermal lining, it protects the shield from the heat that is generated in the reactor core, and it is made up of 50 to 60 centimeters of steel, thickness of steel, isn't it. Now, let us talk about the next component, that is shield. The shield is a biological shielding, that is, we know that the radiations that are generated in a nuclear reactor are harmful to human life. These radiations have to be contained in the reactor itself. For this process, we use what is known as a shield. The shield is made up of concrete and steel. These two, the concrete and steel, absorbs the neutrons effectively, that is, absorb the radiations that are generated effectively, and thereby protecting the living organisms. The shield is, as well as we have seen, the shield is protected from the heat that is generated in the reactor by the help of the pressure vessel. So, the shielding, as we have said, it is made up of steel and concrete, which effectively absorb the radiations. Okay. So, these are the main components that we have in a nuclear power plant. Now, let us talk about the various types of reactors that are there in a nuclear power plant. The various types of reactors that can be used for generation of steam. If we take case, the first type of reactor we have is a boiling water reactor. A boiling water reactor, as we have, this is the reactor part, the reactor core, and we have got the control rods. This is the water, and we have got the turbine which generates mechanical energy. I got the generator which generates electrical energy, that is, it converts mechanical energy into electrical energy, the condenser and a pump. If we observe, the water is directly flows through the reactor and gets converted into steam. If you observe, the water, it flows through the reactor core from the bottom, it absorbs the heat that is generated in the reactor core, gets converted into steam, and the steam is passed into the turbine. After giving away the velocity as well as pressure in the turbine,